Retiring in just a few years, or at least being financially independent, is a goal that a lot of Bitcoiners have. And my guest Jimi, an absolute legendary rancher and previously a genius entrepreneur, is sharing his wisdom about retirement, financial independence, and what Bitcoin truly brings to your life today with us. He said one sentence that stuck with me. If you could go back 5 years and stack Bitcoin as hard as possible, financial independence is hard not to be reached. And of course, with Jimi, we also talked about food, diet, we talked about health, we talked about well-being, and we talked about the Bitcoin way of life. Enjoy. You are someone that worked a lot and accumulated a lot of money with the work, and now you're just living, I think, the dream of a lot of Bitcoiners. They're living on a ranch, like having a wide open schedule. We just talked about time constraints and like you having a schedule in like the next appointment in like 2 weeks and something like that. Maybe let's just briefly touch on the retirement dream that a lot of Bitcoiner have. How do you look at Bitcoin retirement, and how you kind of want to pursue the freedom of time and the having not a lot of wealth but having a lot of time on your hand, which is actually the biggest wealth that you can possibly have?
Yeah, that's been my belief long before Bitcoin, and that's partly why I'm in a sense ahead of a lot of Bitcoiners. I had already accumulated not a huge amount of wealth, but my entire life since I was 30 years old, I'm 66, so more than half my life, I've really been just trying to keep what I'd already made as far as purchasing value. I've known this all my life that, as Saylor called it, the capital becomes a melting ice cube, the value. And so basically I stayed in the game as far as doing business to maintain a wealth, a certain level of purchasing power of money that I had already accumulated. And then I continued to accumulate more because it kept melting. But as soon as I found Bitcoin, it changed the game. I understood it very quickly. And people are like, not from the technical side. And I'm pretty good at understanding tech, but I've been around since tech was invented before computers. So I've been through the whole evolution. And so there's a lot of things that I already had in my lifestyle. I never really joined the 9 to 5. I mean, I had businesses. I had multiple businesses, and we did open at 9 to 5. But I was there at 5 in the morning. I would leave at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I would windsurf, kayak. I did outdoor sports even on a business day. I mean, I worked 7 days a week for 5 years, and yet I surfed and skied and did all the. And then how do you do that and work? Because I work even the days I play. It's like I don't have that schedule. Now, meetings, what we brought up, the time constraints. I used to have meetings every 15, 20 minutes. I mean, literally line up 20, 30 meetings a day because of the businesses I ran. It took a lot of, meetings and management and talking with people. And I was one of those people, if you're late 5 minutes, your meeting's over. I mean, it's like I was very and a very American in that sense. I was raised to be on time. I'm either early or if I'm late, something happened. It just doesn't, ever. My father taught me that a long time ago. And there's an old saying about time and being on time. It's the courtesy of kings. The punishment used to be lose your head. But the point is, it's out of respect that if you want to be treated well, you treat others well and you don't steal their time. And by being late, you're robbing the time of other people as they sit there and wait for you. So I have a great deal of respect to keep things on time. At the same time, I live in Mexico. When I moved down here, yes, you definitely have a different attitude about time. If a Mexican shows up on the same day as the appointment, he figures he's on time. I mean, and they laugh, but they'll go, that's true. I mean, they really just kind of chuckle about it. And it's like, there's island time in Hawaii. Well, I live on a 3-sided peninsula, 1,000 miles long. It's pretty much like an island. And so the Paseños is the people of La Paz, which means peaceful people. The city of peace, and the people are very peaceful. They always say muy tranquilo, very tranquil, and they're very laid back. And so, yes, I have that beauty of my life. And even when I was running all these businesses, I could after 5 years, I took 5 years off in a sense, but I never quit. It's like I still invested in stocks. I still, traded things. I had properties. I did something to generate income. But it wasn't like I worked because I had to work. and I work because I wanted to work. That's a big difference. And back to the freedom of time, I work when I want to work. How many people can say that? They can't. And in many professions, you can't just do that. But I created businesses that would pay for my lifestyle and allow me to have the lifestyle I wanted. And that's one of the tricks that I learned a long time ago from my father was you don't want to make huge incomes. You want to make big companies that great profits, and then you take some of that. But anytime you take the profit, you're paying an income tax. And so how do you avoid that? Well, your business pays for your lifestyle. If it's paying for your travel and it's paying for it legally, I mean, legitimately, you're doing business travel. Like we go on a ski trip, but we had to do business the first day and the last day of the trip. So flying up there in our private plane was paid for by the business. The time we were there the first night, the hotel in the city, for instance, that's paid for by business. The next week of skiing is all paid for personally, but the flight home, because it was a business trip, is also paid, you see. So there's like part of it, my father would go, yeah, it costs a lot to go skiing, but it didn't all come out of my pocket. And it's totally legitimate. This is all, you have to record everything and properly document your travel and things like that to get these kinds of, use these expenses. But this is how you reduce the profit. And my father used to say, yeah, I make $40,000 a year. Well, as I got older, I was like, $40,000 a year? How do you do that and have an airplane and a house? And I'm starting to learn what value of things were when I was 11 and 12 years old. I'm like, $40,000 isn't that much. Yeah, well, it goes, well, it is for food and wine. Like, what else do I got to pay for? Every time I travel, the business that covers, it's like, oh, and I go, oh, so you don't, and I said something about owning an airplane. He goes, I don't own an airplane. And at one point he had two of them. And what do you mean, do I own an airplane? Well, the business owns the airplane. And he just happens to own the business, and he happens to be the only pilot until I came along. And you see, this is, when I became a pilot, he allowed me to fly the business plane because for business, it did, that's where I got my hours. But it was like, it was not really, I didn't get paid to fly. I was lucky to be able to fly the airplanes I was able to fly at a very young age. But these are the kinds of things that richer people figure out ways to have their lifestyle paid for. And so back to the time constraints, I don't have them as much. And it also, with Bitcoin, changes your time preference if you allow it. Not everybody gets changed by Bitcoin, but many people start to realize you're not on the grind anymore. If the money isn't melting, the asset is actually increasing, your value is at least keeping up with the purchasing power, that grind is over in the sense that you don't have to keep busting butt like that. Right now, because of Bitcoin, for young people, all I can say is work hard, live cheap, and stack sats. The faster you do this, the quicker you accumulate Bitcoin and the longer you hodl. If you go past 5 years, get up to 10 years, you're probably retiring. Not in 30 years, not in 20 years or 40 years. You're literally comfortably retiring in 10. That's never been possible anywhere in the world that you could do it just by hodling. See, and I have this conversation all the time with Bitcoiners, OGs, traders. They'll tell me, well, I'm trading because I need to make more Bitcoin. Yeah, but you got to beat Bitcoin's compound annual growth rate, the CAGR. And they go, I know, and I go, are you doing, tax after taxes, after all the work you do, are you making more than 20% a year? Bitcoin's doing better than that. You see, and the beauty of what I did, and this is where I go on and on, I know, but I just come up with these ideas. What explains it, demonstrates what I'm talking about. I actually bought into Bitcoin when Bitcoin was $2,500 a Bitcoin and gold was $2,500 an ounce. I traded 10 ounces for 10 Bitcoin. Now, I've told people this story many times and I'm not like, oh, I don't have them. Most of them I've used to live. It's in my retirement. It's what I live on. But the point is, that Bitcoin, and you look at gold now, it still hasn't doubled from 2,500. It hasn't hit 5,000. Yet gold to Bitcoin is at 16.5 today. It's actually 17 almost. Well, it was down as low as 12, 14. It's been as high as 40 to ounce. There was a time when I actually almost 50x'd. Okay. So, and it's going to go back there. So it's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of me working. So when I look at the fact that I've been in Bitcoin since 2017, so that's going on 9 years, to have something that's gone 15x, and that's the low end, that it's actually above that today, but let's just say 15x, there's nothing else I could have done. I mean, I've had properties, I've done rentals, I've had businesses. There's nothing after taxes that I would have, with all the work, that I could even beat, And here I'm able to beat it without doing anything but holding the Bitcoin. So
It's such an interesting thing. Once you get Bitcoin, you're like, okay, there's like a fast track almost to, like you get a lot faster to your retirement goals than you would use like euros or dollars. That's for sure. But even other assets, like it's really hard to outperform Bitcoin. How do you actually, like, now that we're talking about other assets, how do you look at Stretch, for example? I know a lot of Bitcoiners that are close to or already in retirement, like the Stretch thing. It doesn't do the performance Bitcoin does, but it has some kind of income component automatically to it. How do you look at that product, especially for Bitcoin and retirement?
yeah, still it is third party risk. Yeah, that's always the case. I'm glad to be out of the stock market. I'm glad to be out of properties. I'm glad to be out of all these things that I had to have permission to do and to get my money. I've been there when I want to liquidate. I was there in .coms. I was there with stock investing. When you go to liquidate, you made all this money, but you can't get it. Same thing that happens to a lot of the shitcoinery or the casino coins, as I call them. People are gambling. Well, gamble away. Stretch is a gamble. It's a gamble, even though it's not so bad as maybe just gambling on a casino. It's still gambling in the sense that you're not only gambling to make more, you're hoping that you get an income out, but you've got to be sure you can get it out. Now, in the case of Stretch, if you're not able to, well, there's a lot worse problems in the world than if that happens. So Stretch is fairly safe in the sense of, to make that investment. But again, you're going to have to beat the CAGR if you want to, do that. I get the fact that people want an income. I'm looking at for retirement, product that's probably going to come out. I've talked to OGs that are working on it actually, and people in Wall Street that are trying to create this. But I can see a retirement style annuities being created where Bitcoin is, you put up your Bitcoin, you lock it up, 10 Bitcoin, 5 Bitcoin, whatever, and you get paid an income that is tax free based on that. And that's basically, it's like a bond, but it's done as an annuity. These are the annuities are sold all the time for retirement accounts. And it's a way to, my mother had one. And when she passed, we would get what was left of it. But she was able to get a tax-free income off of that annuity for many, many years and remain retired. And so, you don't use up the wealth. That's the whole trick. So the thing about big borrowing against it, it's a sense of annuities allowed you to steal from the future. So instead of waiting for the future gains, you get some of it. That's what Stretches in a sense doing. Instead of getting the bigger gain, you get income now. And I understand that. But again, are you going to take that income and go buy Bitcoin? Or are you just taking that income so you don't have to sell your Bitcoin? And this is where the annuities come in, I believe, because you can run an annuity in the future. And this is what's coming is you don't need third parties. You don't need Wall Street. You don't need brokers to do this stuff. We all use them. This is how the system is. That's how it's rigged. It really, this is why I'm glad to be out of it. Because the reality is it's not an even playing field. If you're not a high net worth individual, you don't get all the internet. I mean, all the stocks. You can't do IPOs. You can't do, a lot of things that happen are not offered to you because you're not wealthy enough. And that's to me that's a rigged game. And it really is rigged. I mean, if you know about high speed trading and nano trading, all that, it's a game that, yes, you can win at it, but it's just like going to Vegas and winning. My father taught me a long time ago when I was a kid, Las Vegas is built by losers. Think about it. Where's all the money come from? People that lost it to the casinos. Okay. And they're professionals at extracting it from you. So if you think you're going to beat the house at their game, not unless you're really a pro gambler. And even if you talk to the pro gamblers, they're going to tell you the game's rigged. They've been kicked out of casinos when they win a lot. There's a lot of that goes on. And there's a guy that's a very famous poker player. He's all tatted up. I forget his name, but he exposes a lot of this, how they've kicked him out of casinos because he's winning, not cheating, just winning. And it's like, you're winning too much, and
It is crazy because they have to play this game to, like, obviously, like, it's a very logical, like, everyone gets it. Like, if the casino would lose money, there wouldn't be any casinos. So like that's like a very easy thing to think about. But they have to strike the balance to make enough people win so they can talk a little bit about it, and they spread it a little bit so people are coming and doing it, but like not enough so they are losing money.
yeah. And it's the same thing they do in the stock market. They feed you enough gains that is worth being in it, but they're staking so much as a third party. If you look at mutual funds back in the 80s or 90s when they came out with them, and my brother even brought one to my mom, and he was a broker, and I said, come on. you can't be doing that to mom. I mean, the annuity he came up with was a good idea, but when I saw the mutual fund, I said, this is absurd. He says, why? I says, you're recommending it because your company recommends it. But the reality is your company has management fees. Oh, but it's only this amount. Run the numbers, bro. And that he hated it when I'd say, because I'm the young kid. I don't know anything. Go run the numbers. Because what happens with this little tiny compounded commission that they have, it adds up. And when you get done with 20 years, you realize these sons of bitches did nothing and they're getting 40% of the gains because of management fees. And they say, oh, it's only 0.3% or, less than a percent or, some small percentage, 2%, but it adds up. And when you see how it adds up, you're like, this isn't right. And I tell my mom, I go, you could just invest in the S&P or just invest in Q for NASDAQ. In other words, invest in an index fund. You'll do better than the mutual fund and not pay any commissions. You don't need the third party. All Wall Street is third parties. It's like casinos. This is why they have laws about gambling, because if everybody could have a poker game in their house, they wouldn't be going to casinos to lose so badly. It's not a rigged game. It's hard to rig a game in a house. I mean, it's like, so yeah, the unfair playing field is something that is a real issue. And
Is this the same way with real estate properties? Because like when you buy real estate property, most people can't buy it with cash, so they go in like a mortgage situation, like a credit or financing thing, where they go 20, 30. I mean, I already heard 35 years also. And I made the calculations. If you even have a really good interest rate of like 3, 4% and go for like 30, 35 years, most of the money goes to the bank. like 50% of the money goes to like buying the home, and 50% of the money goes to the bank and the lawyers and the system, which I'm like, people are not aware of that. They don't know like the house they buy, like 50% they just like write a check to the bank, and they're working 50% of the time for the bank, and other half they're working for their own home.
Well, and I did finance real estate in the beginning, and I'd buy it that way. It's the only way I could. And I leveraged, and I buy homes that I would fix up and then flip, and that worked. And I was able to beat the system, so to speak. I'd make something out of it, and it wasn't like as rigged as it is today. But getting loans and whatnot wasn't easy, especially cheap loans, to be able to do what you want. So it's one of those things that to get in the game, you've got to get started. And what happens is, like, if you owe a bank several $100,000, it's a problem. If you owe them 100 million, oh, it's not a problem at all. They'll loan you more. It's the silliest thing. But Grant Cardone talks about this very openly, and this is the part that, if you're listening closely, yes, he can get loans, he can keep borrowing money. They love guys like him, because once you're on that side of taking big, huge loans like Elon's done, and pay them back, they just want you to keep doing it. But if you get yourself in trouble, you're so big you can't fail. They'll help you out of it. They won't help you out when you're a small guy. They're just going to take your property, they make the foreclosure. It doesn't pay them to do that with bigger investments. So the old size of you're too big to fail type of thing, well, that's not a fair game. There's all these things that go on in business and whatnot with the governments, subsidizing, helping out. Right now, they're busting the cartel of the beef cartel, evidently, of America, which has been obvious. Now they're in Congress saying, oh, geez, we have 4, companies that are running the whole thing, and a lot of them are foreign owned. This is national security time. It's antitrust laws. It's like, of course it's a monopoly. It's a cartel. I live in Mexico, and everybody attacks me because of drug cartels. And I go, yeah, we have drug cartels. We have corrupt politicians. But as the politicians will tell you, we're honestly corrupt. They don't, I mean, around Mexico, they just honestly, yeah, that's the way it works. And you're like, but in America, it's actually worse because they've hidden it so well. And you're finding out now, your own Congress, your own politicians, they're stealing, literally just stealing money and scamming all the time. And it's because of the incentive. They've been incentivized to do so. Lobbyists come in and pay them, and they write the bills and they approve things. And all this is done without political process. The method that was supposed to be, according to the founding forefathers of our, to create the Constitution, it's all been circumvented into this game. And it's, here in Mexico, it's a very obvious circumvent, that we jokingly say that it's a narco state, in the sense that the cartels are basically running the Congress of the Mexico, and locally in many places, most places. But they're businessmen too. They're becoming less oriented towards the drugs and more towards they got to make money because of what Trump is doing. So, there's pressures on them, and there's pressures on the president right now of Mexico to clean it up, and she's not doing that. And so basically they're making her look very bad globally.
No matter if you already have self-custody or still have your Bitcoin on exchange, your generational wealth that you have in Bitcoin could be completely at risk. And that's why I highly recommend to you to give the Bitcoin Way a 30-minute free consultation call to check how secure your custody setup really is and what you can still improve. So head over to thebitcoinway.com/Robin. Again, that's the bitcoinway.com/Robin and get your free initial 30-minute call with the Bitcoin Way. I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC-free Bitcoin. That's why I use Simple Mining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control, and I can sign up with Ocean, no account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together.
She looks like she's protecting the narcos, and yeah, she is. She's protecting her political interests. You see, that's who financed her. Everybody knows it. But in America, people would argue with me for many, many years when I moved down here. Oh, it's so bad down there. And then I go, have you ever been here? And then they come and they're like, how come you get to live like this? And that was when I was living in the city of La Paz, which is the capital. They go, but this is like, man, you have, more freedom. We can go to the beach and camp out. We can surf anywhere we want. We can camp where we surf. We can go out to the islands and go. There was no need for permissions to do any of this stuff. Whereas in America, where I grew up surfing in California and Oregon, it's illegal to be on the beach after 10 o'clock at night. We used to camp on the beach and go, moonlight surfing or dawn patrol, as we call it. We're up with the sun, surfing the waves before the crowds got in. And, we camp on the beach at 15 years old. No cops, nobody gave, they didn't care. We have a bonfire down on the beach, and now you can't do any of that stuff. So
it's crazy.
Yeah. And they'll claim it's property. I mean, it's population, so we have so many more people. I don't buy it. It's a control. It's the governments all over the world are trying to gain control over their citizens more and more. And the more they grab for that control, it's like the people are going to be sand or water in their hands going through their fingers. Black markets are going to be created globally. They're going to create this supply chain problem. They're going to try and control the food, the water, the energy, the gasoline, everything. And as they do that, humans will find ways around it. And Bitcoin is one of those fantastic tools for getting around things. It's not just for that purpose. It's just the fact that it's a nature of a decentralized money supply. And it's the same thing we need with food, is a decentralized food. Same thing with energy, because once you decentralize it, they can't control it. There's no head of the snake to literally throw in jail. That's why X is a fantastic space, place to meet and talk, but at the same time, Nostr is better, in my view, because Nostr is decentralized. And people say, oh, yeah, it's not there yet, but it's still being used. And I believe there'll be a time when people realize it's really the only way to go. I mean, if they, I mean, look what they've done to Iran. Look what they're trying to do in Europe. In certain parts, they're trying to make X illegal. He's one man. They can really mess with him like they did in Brazil.
I like the freedom aspect is just crazy for me. I wanna just double click really quick on the banking thing, because I think you said something really interesting, and I heard that recently actually on a podcast with this real estate guy, Robert Kiyosaki. He said something that like kind of stuck in my head. He said, if you owe the bank 20 million, that's your problem. If you owe the bank $1 billion and you can't pay it back, it becomes the bank's problem. So they want you to give you more money. They are on your side. They wine and dine you.
somebody to help bail you out. Yeah, they have to, because you've put them in that position. That's what Grant Cardone was talking. It's just saying, yes, it's been known for many, many years. You have to get to the size that all of a sudden you're such a big client, you determine how the bank deals with things, not them. But that's not a fair playing, I mean, when your mortgages are sold and resold, and the game that they play with derivatives and selling loans and all this, it's like they're making more money on something they've already made money on. They keep getting, and this is the game that Wall Street plays. They get so many hands. It's the same thing in the food production. When you produce food in one part of a country and then harvest it, store it, transport it halfway around the world, store it again, get it to a distribution center, store it again. There are so many hands, so many people touching your food along the way. All of them have to get paid. How do they get that food? And that food is 6 months harvested, maybe up to a year before you eat the fruits or vegetables, they claim now. That's absurd. One, I don't think it's nearly as nutritional food as if you harvest it and eat it within weeks of harvest. And I guarantee you, with all those hands touching it and that distance and that time away from the farm before it's actually eaten, it's being gassed or it's being sprayed, stored, all the, even the organic they're finding. They're gassing organic bananas. They have to be able to ship them in and out of countries and things. So people don't realize there's really the only way to get an organic banana is to buy it locally. And this is what kills me, is they make it very difficult for Americans, for instance, in some countries, for people to buy locally from their neighbors. It's illegal. You can't grow food in your garden and sell it down the street. I did that as a kid. That was how I made income. And I did very well with it as a kid in California, and it wasn't illegal. Everybody thought it was cute, but we also had milkmen that delivered the milk, you see. And we need to go back to food delivery for the cities and suburbs. We need to have many more food delivery companies, not big box stores. See, it's the nature of a Walmart, a Costco, these big box stores that have the box food, the box meat. Okay, first off, it's convenience to have all that and walk into a store and look at all the selection. But the reality is it any good? And I mean, is it any good as fuel for your body? Is it non-toxic? Is it healthy? U.S. Congressman made the comment many years ago, and I heard it. I just cracked up. Good point. You go into grocery stores in America, and they have an aisle that says health food. What's the rest of the stuff?
That's a fun one. That's the healthy stuff. It's like 1/10 of the store, probably not even that healthy. And if that's the healthy stuff, like 90% of the store is not healthy, then.
What you're saying is this isn't, and to me, it's not healthy food. It's what I call food. When I talk about milk, I'm referring to fresh milk, raw milk. That's milk. Everything else is pasteurized or modified. See, in America right now, I just watched a Twitter just before we came on, a post where a woman has bought $18 steaks, opens it up, and she's stretching it out, and it's like Play-Doh. And she's just like, what is this made of? Like, this isn't meat. And 3 of the 4 were pretty good, but one of them was just horrible. But she goes, I don't think I'm going to eat this. Like, it literally stretched out in a way that is not natural. Meat doesn't fall apart like that. It's glued together. It's something else, right? And so I just saw also that they're in America come up with new ways of saying bioengineered or GMO. They don't say that now. They say cultured or culturally grown or cell culture. They're using euphemisms, what we call it, anything to not let you know that it really isn't real food.
So they're saying cultured instead of lab grown.
Right. They don't want to say that. They don't want to say bioengineered or lab grown but that's what it is. And that's what people are going to hopefully see. The beauty of this is one of those things that's falling apart. That we've got so convenient, so great at distributing garbage. Now what's happened is the garbage is going to get expensive. The big box stores are going to get expensive because of the price of diesel and because of the difficulty in getting things. So as the supply gets more difficult, it could get to where there's not as much stuff, and the stuff that it's going to be a premium. But that also means that the local ranchers and farmers, like what I buy my meat, their price hasn't changed at all. During COVID, I still pay the same price for the last 7 years per kilo for my ribeye and tomahawks as I have for 7 years from the same butcher. And I asked her, and she goes, well, we upped our price, after COVID, just like a year ago, they upped it like 10%. But because you buy so much, you still charge you the 400 pesos a kilo. I said, oh, thanks. And I'm a good client. I basically buy all my meat once a month. I go into her butcher and I just buy 30, 40 steaks. And because I'm a carnivore and that's what I live on. And it's incredibly healthy, good meat. Now, it's not tender. And one of the things people talk about is grass fed and corn fed and all this. I have no problem if you want to do a corn finish. A corn finish is definitely many times a softer and more tasty steak in a way. But is it more nutritious? And this has been my big change in my life. I mean, for many, many years, I'm just as guilty as anybody of eating stuff because it tastes good. It's entertainment, as I call it. Oh, I love that, but is it, good to be eating? Macaroni and cheese from a package with hot dogs as a kid. Well, when you find out how the hot dog's made and then you find out what's in that, today, especially, see, a lot of the stuff I grew up with, which is not very good food to be eating, has gotten even worse because the cheese isn't even cheese anymore. Back then it was powdered cheese. Now they can't even, they call it cheese food. They can't call it just cheese. And you're like, God, everything has gone to chemical. They're lab doing chocolate now. And the companies are busted for having heavy metals in their chocolate, like Lindt. I thought Lindt was a good company from Europe. I thought, wow, they're a good chocolate. And Cadbury, nope, they're just as guilty. Nothing that comes in a package is safe these days. They're lying to people. They've got stuff in there. Now, is it all over the world? Not necessarily. We have people that come down here from Montana and Washington, that my neighbors, they both have returned back up to the States for the summer, and they took a bunch of sacks of flour with them. Why? Because they can't eat the flour in the United States. They have reactions to it. One son is like an indicator. If there's glyphosate, he gets like sick immediately. It doesn't, like an allergic reaction. But his mom found he can eat all the, if she uses certain flours here in Mexico, not a problem.
I
So,
hear that also from people coming to Europe, because a lot of people cannot eat the bread in America. They come here to Europe and they can eat all the bread. I mean, I guess that's one of the few advantages of Europe. They have but they have stricter regulation when it comes to food and what you can do with the food. And the bread is more bread than the American bread. The American bread is more sugar than bread. And so, like, there's the one thing I really noticed also when I was going to America, and a couple of times I went to America because of podcasts and conferences and all of those things. The food is just way better, like in Austria, and we still have in Austria those like farm stations where just like a farmer puts up a small wooden thing in front of their farm and you can buy the milk directly from them. They usually also have yogurt and stuff like that that directly comes from there, and it's just so much better. And actually, if you eat a lot of like you've never eaten the farm milk and the farm things, like your stomach probably reacts to that at first because it's a little bit heavier. It's a little bit like I've heard people like, oh, yeah, I cannot handle this. Yeah, because you never had real milk. You never had real like the yogurt in your stomach, but it's better for you. Dive
and you
through the first week.
well, less of it. You don't need as much. I mean, I drink a much smaller glass of raw milk than I will of other milk. And I like milk, but when I drink raw milk, it's like, yeah, a few sips and you're like, okay, I don't need to have a, 8-ounce glass, 12-ounce glass necessarily. It's very satiating. It's just like my steak. It's not necessarily the most tender, but you eat it and you get very satiated as a carnivore. And I judge this as carnivores because carnivores, if they're strict like I am, are in keto a lot. And when you're in keto and the ketones are in your blood and you eat this meat, you feel the difference. I mean, literally, any carnivore that really is strict about it, they're like, oh, I know what you mean. It's literally like we feel it coming into our bodies. We feel it energizing us. And you don't get that if I eat other meats or other foods. And if I eat other foods, I feel it in my stomach, but I never got the energy hit. It's like, and then the next day I'm kind of dragging and I'm not really moving. I go, well, oh, that's right. I ate that. I had pizza last night. Or I went off, as I say, the rails. I, didn't just stick to my meat, which is fine. Occasionally I do. I eat bread, but if it's sourdough bread made by my neighbor, doesn't bother me at all. If it's homemade, it's like in Europe, I have plenty of friends that they go to Europe. I have a friend that he loves cooking. He knows a great deal about food and cooking. And he goes and takes classes and stuff. He's retired and he loves to travel. But Pete goes there and he does this stuff of he makes croissants and everything at home. He knows how to make all this stuff. But he goes, you go to Europe and you just eat all you want. But I come to America and if I eat the same stuff in the same quantities, I'll be sick. I'll be fat. I mean, it just is. The food is not the same. And yet you're buying the same thing, you think, like the croissant. But the croissant in America is made with glyphosate in the wheat. It's got issues in the butter. It's got issues in the oil. Everything they use to add in Europe, it's much more real. And yeah, people are not used to real food in America. They're literally have gotten to where they have generations of eating this garbage. And in many cases, you give them a real strawberry that's organically grown without anything, and they taste it and they're like, "What is this?" And like, that's what the strawberry flavor tastes like. Like everything you're eating is just sweet. It's not, and they go, "This is what, wow." And some people like it, some people don't like it. I go, "I don't like that." I'm like, "Well, that's real strawberry." That's what the flavor is.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you have like a strawberry yogurt, and you're like, it's not a yogurt, and there's no strawberry in there. It's like, what are you even eating? But it's really interesting. Do you think that this kind of food thing comes from Fiat, or is that also kind of just human nature, kind of greed, like wanting to like maximum profits?
My feeling is, and I used to say that people are evil, and yes, there are people. I'm finding it is true. There are plenty of evil out there, people in the sense that they actually knew what they were doing. In many cases, though, it's because of the bad money. It is because of the fiat. They create fiat food, as I say, just like fiat medicines. Fiat is an illusion. Okay, it's value because it's forced upon you, not because it's actually there. It's not determined by a market. As they say in America, why is the U.S. dollar so strong? Because the U.S. military, as they're trying to prove right now, it's like that's their value. It's not based in, is there any value in that money? No, we all know nobody wants to buy the treasuries. I mean, it's kind of the gig's up. Everybody knows the dollar's not worth anything, but then again, the euro's not really worth anything. All fiat money isn't really worth what people claim it is. It's an illusion. Well, the problem with having your asset, your money deteriorating all the time is that people continually have to make more money, not just make the same money and make a decent profit. They have to make more money. So everybody's on this grind to increase their profits at all times. Is that really naturally, in the markets, in the world, is that really, if there are no subsidies, no help or anything, is that really the way the market would work? No. Companies get to a point that they make a good profit and they're doing well, and they continue to make that profit, but not necessarily increase it every year. They might increase it over 3 or 4 years in steps. But the way they go about it is they'll lie, cheat, and steal to make that money now. And so farmers get put into a position. I talked to a farmer on my podcast the other day. He came in and he was very open-minded, and I really feel for these guys. And he thinks, "Oh, you hate us." No, I don't. I don't like commercial farming, big ag as we call it, because farming thousands of acres in the same crop is not environmental. It is not natural. It is not going to produce a good land, nor is it going to produce good product. I will argue with anybody, and we're going to be able to prove this soon. We have new apps and new tools coming that will allow us to, what they call a bricks meter is one thing, and it measures sugar content, but they're making apps that are basically, hopefully an app that can go in your phone even. You can scan the plant or the food and find out what the nutritional value is, a rough idea. And they're calibrating the machines right now. I mean, they literally have just made this. And as they load this with the data points, so that then when you scan the broccoli or you scan the spinach or you scan the meat and say, is this worth eating? You're going to be able to go to a store and literally see what the nutritional value is of that food, or at the farm out here at the ranch as I'm growing it. And I'll be able to say, is this cantaloupe nutritious? And I'll tell you this, is I bought a store-bought cantaloupe. I wasn't really planning on eating. I don't eat a lot of fruit, but I bought it because I need fruit and vegetables for my worms. And most people have scraps. I don't always have that much extra. So I just grabbed the cantaloupe one day. They're on sale. They're cheap. And I cutting it up for the worms. And I thought, well, I'm going to try a piece. I used to love cantaloupe. One bite and I was like, well, there's no flavor in this thing. Like it was like just cardboard. It was like, oh my God, it looks like a cantaloupe, but it had no taste. But I took the seeds out and go, I'm not going to keep buying them. I'm going to grow up cantaloupe for the worms. The first cantaloupe that came out was huge. I thought, wow, this thing came out really good. My neighbor was there and he's looking at him. He saw several others. He goes, whoa, this thing's just huge. And I pulled one out and cut it up, and I couldn't believe the flavor. It was like a totally different, fruit. It was really strong cantaloupe flavor, incredible. And to prove it, not only did my neighbor try it, but a Bitcoiner showed up the next day from town. He's a good friend of mine. And said, hey, do you like cantaloupe? He goes, yeah. I said, I want you to try this. I just want to know what you think. One bite, and he wanted to eat. Yeah, I had 2 of them there, half of one. We ate that right up, and he just kept going. He goes, "Can I cut?" I go, "Yeah, you can cut into the." And he wanted to eat the whole damn second one. I mean, he was just like, "This is the best cantaloupe I've ever had." So what was the difference? How'd that happen? Soil. It's simply what's in the soil. And this is what you end up when you get into permaculture, when you get in, this is what happened to me, and this is happening to a lot of Bitcoiners. They get into Bitcoin. They've done their time. They've started to realize, okay, I've got a decent life ahead of me. It's not such a panic anymore. I've got some value, and I've got some, retirement. So now I want to live. I'm not as depressed. I'm not as, without hope, and I want to be healthier. So they go down the rabbit hole of, now I've got sound money. Now I want my sound health.
With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups, because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Finally, we have BTC Prague back in 2026. And this year, I'm not only speaking on a panel, but I'm actually going to present an interesting new angle, a perspective, a Bitcoin thesis at BTC Prague this year for the first time ever. I've never done that on any other conference, so this will be a fun one. If you listen to this show on a regular basis, I would love to meet you in Prague this year. It's very high signal, no noise, and Prague is just a freaking amazing city with awesome drinks and a lot of good food. Use code Robin to get 10% off, and if you buy with Bitcoin, you get an additional 5% off your ticket price. I'll see you there in Prague. Make sure to come say hi.
You want sound health, where are you going to get it? Sound food. And when you go down that rabbit hole, you start to realize, where do you get sound food? From sound soil. You don't get it from hydroponics. You don't get it from chemicals. You don't get it from monoculture. You get it from the small local ranchers and farmers that are producing the food from natural fertilizers, not with a bunch of additives. This idea that urea is, this fertilizer that everybody uses is now a problem because of Iran and all that. It's a good problem to have. We used to farm. People say, but we can't farm industrial. We can't feed the world without urea. Well, we used to, and there's plenty of countries that do without it. Now, the problem is you can't do a 10,000 acre corn crop or soy crop without it. But you see all the permaculture people that are doing several hundred acres or 10 acres, 20 acres, they don't need it. I don't bring any fertilizer onto this property. I bought some. I still have some in sacks that have never been opened. It's organic, but I don't need it. I do worm castings. I use moringa. The leaves from moringa as a fertilizer, a 1515 MPK. I mean, I can go on for hours about how you can generate fertilizer, okay? But you can't do it for thousands of acres all at once. There are ways to regenerative agriculture, thousands of acres. It takes some work, and it takes rotation crops, companion cropping, and using animals in most cases. It speeds it up, rotating grazing through them as well. Not everybody wants this. This farmer that got a hold of me and asked about the problem that he's into $1 million business, 7,000 acres. He grows potatoes. It's subsidized. Actually, it's run by the government. And in the sense that he's told what to plant, when to plant it, what chemicals to put on his crop, when to put it on, has to verify it. And he does like what do you say, 8 layers of chemicals through a growing season. He knew exactly, he'd tell you exactly the chemical, everything he did. And he goes, this is what I have to do by law. And then when he's done, the people that he has to sell to the market, to the industry, this industry market, they tell him what he gets for his potatoes for price. So he made a point. I said, so if you actually end up saving money, doing something that literally makes you've not used the chemicals, or you've done this or this, and you actually get a better production. In some way, you've increased your profit. He says, but I won't get it because they won't let me sell for that price. They'll change the price on me. They'll take my profit. And I'm like, dude, you're a high paid slave. You're a stressed out. I mean, this guy, he's got millions of dollars in loans. It's a huge operation. I've known many farmers have been down this road. They get to the point that they have to stay in the game. As long as they do, it's just like everything in the world. They're on the grind, as we call it. They're on that hamster wheel, and they can make it. They're chasing that cheese, and they get some, but they're given just enough to stay in the game. And when you look at how hard this guy works for the amount of money that he's making, to me, it's not worth it. Now, he wants to do the right thing. He wants to do regenerative ag. But I told him I'm not the pro at that. There are other people that know better than I. And I talked to Ed yesterday, a friend of mine that does spaces with me a lot. He knows much more about. He works with big farms and ranches. I told him about the guy, and I said I'd love to get you together because he's got questions for Ed. And this is what I do with my spaces. I basically just network people. I don't know everything by any means. There's so much to know about food and production and soils and everything. But as you start to get into this, wanting sound, healthy food, you realize even with hydroponics, that's all chemicals. Could be all organic chemicals. But does it give you nutritional value? See, an interesting thing happens with plants. You can throw calcium and magnesium into the soil. It doesn't mean the plant uptakes it. Sound familiar? Are you familiar with calcium in your body? You take calcium, doesn't mean your body's going to use it. You take calcium with magnesium, it's more likely it'll take it up. But if you eat a fruit or vegetable or meat that has calcium and magnesium in it, your body will take it up. So there's something about the uptake, the absorption through the roots and the soil and the biome and the bacteria that when it's naturally done in soil, the plant, like when I give my worm castings to the plants, I give the worms calcium. I give the worms biochar. I have them eat all this stuff, and then it's in their worm castings. And that the plant uptakes. And if I give it too much, it doesn't burn the plant. The plant, you can't burn the plant with worm castings or worm tea, which are very strong fertilizers, but they're not so strong that they burn the plant. Where everything else, hydroponics, monoculture, they're always on the edge of just maximum doses that the plant hopefully will take up some of it. To me, it's just not natural. And so you're not, and if you test the nutritional value of that food, I think that's where you're going to find you're feeding a lot of people, but you're feeding them garbage. What's the point? Now you have a population like in America. We have the most obese population, malnutritioned people. How can you be so huge and have no nutrition, right? You eat food. They eat a ton of food. They eat a ton of calories. The fact of the matter is, if you're eating real food, you don't need to eat that much food. I eat one meal a day. I skip a lot of days. And people look at me.
I don't want to be rude to the Americans, but like I just came back from an American trip, and the difference that you see on an European airport versus an American airport is it's tremendous. If you just like open your eyes and see European airports, of course there are also people that are obese and have way more mass than they should have. But the amount of people that are obese in America just on the airport, it's like, what? Like it's a whole different world. And like I'm trying not to be rude, but like it's
True.
you
I mean,
see it very clearly. That's crazy.
no, it's not only crazy, they've normalized it. This is what kills me. They didn't have triple XL when I was growing up. I mean, a double XL was a big news. I was like a double extra large. Who the hell? I mean, unless when I was young, I was the chubby kid. I was the fat kid. You see my photos when I was a kid, and everybody go, "You weren't fat." That was considered fat, guys. I was chubby. I had a gut. They were surprised I could run very fast or, play baseball or do anything. But I wasn't that fat by today's standards. My God, today, what they consider to be, no, that's just healthy. No, it's not. That much weight on your joints, that much weight, extra fat on your body is not healthy. But they're normalizing it by now they got 5XL t-shirts.
5.
I'm like, and I know guys that it's like, what are you going to, 5X? They go, they have them. I'm going, that, like you realize that you're instead of losing your weight because you can't find clothes, they just buy bigger clothes. And it's like, this is absurd that you guys, all these boomers, my age, friends of mine that are on the couch with bad knees, bad hips, getting surgeries, are running out of money, retiring, slobs on a couch, and they don't want to go anywhere. They don't want to travel. They can't. It's physically difficult to walk long distances and things. You're like, what was the point of working for 45 years and, literally spending all your time to make this income so you can sit on the couch and watch TV for the rest of your life? It's sad. It's where the world is, and yes, be brood. I'm sorry. I'm tired of being my entire family. I look at them, I go, you're all fat slobs, you know? And I'm the guy with the severe rheumatoid arthritis. I couldn't walk for years. I had, really bad hands. And when I'm getting stronger, healthier every day. I guarantee you there's nobody. I've seen a few friends I haven't seen in years. A buddy of mine came in to Baja a few months ago and met up with him before Christmas. And he and his wife, and they look pretty good. But he was like, whoa, you are like in great shape. I'm like, well, compared to what I was. He goes, yeah. And he goes, I've heard that you just eat meat. And I go, yeah. And he's like, and it's working. And his wife's just looking at me and she's just like, you know, can't dial it in. It just doesn't make sense. But it's like they see it. This is what gets so many people when the ones that have known me through most of my life, they're just like, well, something's working. Like, we can't argue with the results. I mean, that's the fact. And this is why I make such a good, poster child for the carnivore for people that have disease, because it makes a radical difference in my life. It doesn't.
Yeah, I think like the first step of like doing the diet is already extremely helpful. Just like cutting out the sugar, the processed food, and all of that shit. Like that's so helpful, because like it it matters so much what you eat. And it I I think it's great carnivore. I think also, like, if you just eat plant-based, it's probably also good. I'm not an expert, but the main thing that I always come back, like, cut out the sugary drinks, cut out the processed food, cut out all the cheesy things that you are eating, the like the cheese macaroni, the pizza, the quattro formaggi, like all of that crap. If you just cut out that and focus on real meat, on whole foods, buy it from as local as possible, best from the farmer around. In Austria, it's a normal thing that you can drive to a farmer, get a meat, drive to a farmer, get cheese, get yogurt and milk and all of that. If you do that, you will be like 100 times better than the average person already, just by cutting out. Like, I think we overcomplicate things with diet. Most people would just need to cut out the really bad things that they're eating, and this is already like 10 times better.
Well, people have this thing that food's become entertainment. That's what I call it. And if you really think of why do you eat, I ask this to people all the time. Why do you eat? If you don't eat, what happens? Okay, I mean, it's pretty obvious. So why are you eating? Is it for entertainment, or are you eating for fuel for your body so that you have a stronger body the next day, so you have energy to get through the next day or the months ahead? This is the thing that we changed what food is. We've turned it into entertainment. We've turned it into, I have to have all this variety. I have to have all. No, you don't. And people say, we can't just live on steak alone. I've eaten tomahawks 20 days in a row. I actually had tacos the other day. But I mean, I can literally go, I've just done 30 days of steak every day. Don't tell me you can't. Now, I'm not saying you need to. Like you just said, I'm not just a proponent of carnivore. I don't care if you're vegan, vegetarian, or carnivore. Makes no difference to me. That's up to you. What does make a difference to me, and I think will with you, is only eat real food, which goes back to what you originally said, which is what Michaela Peterson, who educated me on this with never having met her, I've just listened to her podcast, but she has a website called don'teatthat.com. It doesn't say eat this, it says don't eat that. That's the point, you see, and you're 100% right. I invited Tone Bay, who's a good friend of mine, to come on my spaces, and I've been on his many times, but he came on mine because he's changing from doing the trading and the technical analysis as much to doing longevity and health, and he's looking really good. And we talked a lot about how they got there. And he's not as strict carnivore as I am. And, we talk about all the time. He got me into it in a sense with safety. But, I have this medical reason to do it. He doesn't need to be as strict. But how he's getting his health is not by being a carnivore, but it's by not eating ultra pasteurized foods, not eating sugar, not eating seed oils, and you not eat these 10 things, okay, and getting sleep. And he has a rippling abs. I mean, his stomach is rippling now. He looks like he's all muscled up. And people say, man, you've been working out at the gym. He goes, no, I travel a lot and I can't, I'm really bad about getting in the gym. And they're like, well, what are you doing? Well, it's kind of interesting because I knew the answer because it just actually had happened to me. I had a really hard time with a bad shoulder here for several years and not be able to sleep well at night. And finally, I got the shoulder pain to move away. It changes, right? But I'm getting to where I have just less pain in my body. And I started sleeping through the night, all the way through the night. At my age, most guys get up. And I say, do you sleep through the night? To my friends who go, oh, yeah. I says, you don't get them go to the bath. Oh, no, I go to the bathroom twice. I got 2 or 3 times. Well, that's not sleeping through the night. And they go, you mean you lay down and you don't get up until morning? Yeah. And that took, as everybody's like, what? You don't have to pee in the middle? No. I get up in the morning and go take a piss. That's it. And like last night, I was like, oops, it's 9 o'clock. Oh, I've got a podcast with Robin in the morning. I better not stay up too late, which I don't anyway. And I go to bed and I go, well, I'll be up by 5, no problem. I don't have to set an alarm. Sure enough, 4:30, I was awake. But I laid down and I thought to myself, the next time you open your eyes, it'll be time to get up. And most people my age cannot say that. And I don't even remember tossing or turning, which I used to do a lot of. Well, what the side thing, and this is what's interesting, is I figured this out, was what has changed. All of a sudden, I lost all this weight. And I didn't lose it in a bad way. I lost the love handles on the side. I've lost, it's like my stomach is not rippling, but it's starting to get flatter. And I'm just going, I haven't changed anything, except for I'm sleeping really well. And I had just figured this out. And then Tone comes on the program and I go, it's from sleeping. And he goes, yeah, you know my punchline. I'm like, I just actually accidentally figured this out. And he goes, you're kidding. I go, no. I mean, he goes, so you're, I dropped like 5, 10 pounds in the right place. You know, it's not like I'm weak and getting frail, not eating well. People see me, you're so skinny, but I'm strong and healthy, you know, and that's the thing. And I'm like, from what? Real food, not eating a bunch of garbage, and getting sleep. That's it.
Sleep is so important. Like that is a game changer. Like if you can sleep through the night and like wake up and like just be refreshed. I mean, actually, like I noticed that I sleep better than in the morning. I'm like need some time to wake up. Like if I'm like wake up in the morning, I'm directly awake. Like it's usually a sign that I did not sleep as deep and as good. Like I just like tracked it and like if I'm in the morning, I'm like, oh, that was intense, and I just like slept through for like 8 hours, 8.5 hours. That's like wow, that's a really good sleep. I mean, I don't know like the waking up in the middle of the night. I guess I'm too young still for that, but I never had that. And of course, like when I travel to America, I always have that. When I have the time zone change, I get changed from time zone. Like America, I travel there. I'm up at like 2, 3 in the morning always because this is my internal clock. But like sleep is huge. Like I notice also that the better I get to sleep and the better I wake up, the less stressed I am. Like I think the resting heart rate going before you go to bed, before you go to sleep, says a lot about like how well your sleep will be. So like less stress, not eating right before, like eating like 2, 3 hours before sleeping. That always fucks me up at least.
Well, getting off computers. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, and knocking down lights and not using a bunch of artificial lighting, especially LED or fluorescent. There's a lot of things that affect us. And when you start to understand it has the mitochondria in our bodies is being fooled by these artificial lights and sunglasses and all these things. Um, Vitamin D absorption, people are using red light therapy and everything. Go outside, take your shoes off, get in the sunshine, do it naturally. It's way better than artificially taking all this stuff. And that's what happens. It's, and when I finally got my sleep back, now it's like, and I talk to people all the time that, they're like blown away that I actually sleep through the night, not generally 8 hours, but 6.5, 7 is what I've always been. It's not like I'm extending it. If I go back to sleep, that makes me groggy. If I force my, like, oh, I'm not getting up, I don't feel like it, and I roll over, that generally makes it like, oh, it's so much tougher. Normally I wake up and I'm just like ready to go. I wake up and it's like, oh, time to get out. I wasn't that way for 25 years with this pain. I used to wake up and take 4 Vicodin, 4 hydrocodone just to hit the floor. I mean, I'd take 4 of them, roll over, wait for an hour, then I could make it to the bathroom walking in pain. I don't use any of this stuff. And I get up at 5 in the morning, 4:30. I have to walk all the way over the kitchen. I have a refrigerator right behind me. It's not turned on. I have a refrigerator over in the common kitchen for the ranch, and that's just where I keep everything because not a lot of people here. I don't have to have everything running, and I could just run this little one. But then I joked to myself, but then you wouldn't have to walk over there and get it 150 feet every morning. I mean, I'm one of these people. I actually park the furthest away from the store entrance or the event entrance, and I have the arthritis and I have to walk, it hurts. But people say, why do you do that? It's because when you want to leave, it's much easier to exit events than if exit, but I don't mind walking. And people say, yeah, I know you want to walk across town instead of get an Uber. And I'm like, because I can. You didn't spend 2 years not being able to walk. I spent 2 years, I didn't ever get in a wheelchair, and that's part of the reason I think I can still walk, is I didn't give up. But it was not easy and very painful to walk anywhere and more than 100 feet. Well, I have a contractor friend here in Mexico that was working with me, and part of the reason I had a hard time working with him is there was issues, but the biggest one, he can't physically go anywhere. I'd literally come and get him in the buggy to drive him 150 feet over to where I can just walk over there. I walk all over. I walk miles every day, just by doing my work around here. And that's what I mean is part of what I'm doing at this ranch. And people say, well, you're out there, and now it's just so you know, I have found out legally, I've been held up because of the government not giving me titles, not be able to get the ranch put into a corporation so that I could have investors or people that want to buy in, that they actually have something that is theirs to protect them. I'm not about to create a rug pull. I'm a real Bitcoiner. That last thing, I'm not even really trying to make money off this land. I'm trying to get the place built. So when people invest, it's like your money's not going to me, it's going to us. And it's only going to be used in ways that we agree. And when people understand it, they're like, why are you doing it? Because I want to get this place built. And I don't need millions of dollars. I want to get the place built. It means much more to me. On top of that, I'm working with lawyers now that are actually Bitcoiners. And they're lawyers that understand agricultural law in Mexico City, and they're Bitcoiners. So I'm trying to get them to be a part of the ranch. And I said, I'll even gift you I'll trade you for the work you do to create the corporation and get this a piece of decent land worth way more than you're going to charge me, because I want you to be here, because they're not about to screw other Bitcoiners. They totally understand what I'm saying. As soon as I said it, they're like, we get it. Like, we already work with other Bitcoin companies in Yucatan and Mexico City. And I said, yeah, your reputation is history globally. If I screw somebody over, everybody's going to know about it. Same with these guys, right? The Bitcoin group, society is very tightly knit. I know people all over the world, and they know me. And, we burn one another. It gets found out. So this is the beauty of working with Bitcoiners. They understand this. And these guys, they want to have a good reputation. They're good people. So they're not as likely, though, to be, tell somebody, oh, do this. But if they're involved, if they're a part of it, it's their ranch too. And they're very interested in coming out and checking it out and being a part of it. And so I believe is the safest way I just want to make sure that once I die, that people aren't going to get ripped off. As long as I'm alive, it ain't going to happen. But, I'm not going to be here forever. And I have a lot of people who want to invest in the ranch. And some people are really, I trust you. I go, yeah, but if I have a car accident, you have nothing. I can't give you anything right now. It's coming. This is happening right now. It'll happen probably June, July, that I'll be able to say, okay, the corporation is being built or is made, and now I can take investment. Now, when you buy the stocks to that corporation, you actually own land, and you have something the government, nobody can take it from you. I can't take it. Nobody else can take it. Once that's established, people can, safely invest in the ranch and do this. But yeah, it's a big deal to try and get, I'm trying to create a housing development where it doesn't just provide housing. All over the world, we have suburbs, we have housing developments, fraccionamientos, they call them in Spanish, but suburbs, subdivisions, whatever you want to call them. All they do is provide straight streets. And there's a reason why I say that, straight street and 90-degree angles. That's how you know it's not done permaculture. You see, it's nature's not straight. So when you make a neighborhood like that, you're not taking into account drainage, lighting, winds, any of this. You're just plotting it down, saying this is where we want to put a bunch of houses. If you plan the streets according to the contour, and you don't have straight streets, and you have curves, and you have no real corners, you can make the same development, but it takes into account drainage, water, wind, soil, everything. And you actually can create food forest all over that neighborhood. And that neighborhood could be feeding itself. You could have people that have cows and chickens on the outskirts of the neighborhood. And I would like to see our neighborhoods literally produce most of the food, if not all the food that people eat in that neighborhood. You see, and then you don't need big box stores. It's your community is what's providing this. I believe that's the future of how we should live on the planet. You see, it's not just provide housing. It provides housing, shelter. It provides energy, food, and water. And if you need a job, you could easily come out here and work for the ranch while other people are going to be retired like me. I'm not going to do all the work. I'm going to pay other people to do the work. I hope they're Bitcoiners, they're young Bitcoiners, stacking sats, trying to get here and literally get them, maybe they're renting on the ranch, or maybe we gift them a place to live to get them going. But I want to see people get out of this damn system that traps them into this grind.
It's such a bad thing. Like if you like you have such an amazing possibility to have a great life if you do something and contribute, but if you use the wrong money, if you get yourself in debt, as you made the example with the farm, you have such a bad head start, like such a bad start to life. So if you can just like avoid that and avoid those like credit flaws or credit traps that like are presented in a massively beneficial way to you all the time, like, oh, get a car loan for 40K, 0% interest rates, 1% interest rate, 5% interest rate. Same with the home, just 3% over 30 years. Then you own your own home, you don't have to pay rent. All of like, it's very nicely presented always to get indebted. And the same with like the farmers and like keeping up with the Joneses. And you get yourself in a situation where you earn good, where you contribute to society, but you still don't get anything. Like you don't get any freedom. And that's why I feel like that in itself is, in my opinion, the root of all evil. Like the creation of debt, the creation of fiat money. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And it's a really Fiat thing. It's funny. While I wasn't a Bitcoiner for many years after I moved to Mexico, because you don't buy land with financing down here, even if they offer it, it's 36% a year. Like you're not going to get that. If you got the loan, you're an idiot. So you don't borrow money down here for land or for housing. There are government, to help the poor people where they match things and they help them out with quote loan. But even their loans are negative amortized. What that means is they owe more money after 5 years of paying the principal and interest than they did the original loan. That is illegal in America. It was called loan sharking because you're paying what we call a VIG, which is an additional cost to the criminal that you're getting your money from. That's what loan sharks did. Well, back in the 2008s, they actually made it legal, these negative amortized loans in the United States, and this is what caused the real estate crash. The banks were literally giving out loans that were ridiculous. People said, well, I'm going to refi before it's a problem. But then when everybody goes to the refi, there's no liquidity. There's no way to refi. And a lot of people got burned. But it's like you burned yourself. Now, I do use credit. And it's funny, I moved down here. I didn't have any car payments, any house payment, nothing for 20 years. Bitcoin comes along. And during COVID, I needed to get a truck. And I was like, oh, man, I can't get anything down here. And I want a camper on it. And they're up in the States. I went up to the States and I could easily, I have great credit. So I went and bought on loan. And it wasn't a cheap loan, 7%. But 7% is a hell of a lot cheaper than 20% of using my Bitcoin. So I look at it as this is the tricky part. All of a sudden now I'm like, okay, I'll get the loan or I'll just pay it off. Well, Bitcoin doubled. I could easily pay off the loan, but I can also just keep the loan. And yes, I'm paying a ridiculous amount of money for that car, but I'm making more money by not spending my Bitcoin to pay for it. Now, the next time it pumps, it's over. I mean, it's like, I'll just pay it off because it's just getting to where, but that monthly payment, once I get out of that one, it's like I'm done with loans again. And it's just like, it's just like not having appointments, not having payments every month. I mean, I use credit cards, debit cards to use my Bitcoin. I mean, in a way, that's how I spend it, or I convert the Bitcoin to fiat, and then I do use cards. And I pay off my cards. I don't really use cards for long term by any means. It's just a 30-day payment system. I use it as a charge card. I never pay the interest on the credit because I don't carry it over. I just make pay off the card. It's more of a convenience. But it also, like the other day, I was buying things I needed, and it was at 72. And now it's at 81. So I charged the things when it was 72. I didn't use my Bitcoin. Now I can sell Bitcoin at 81 and pay for those things that were at 72. So in a way, I guess it's not spend the Bitcoin. But I wouldn't get real in debt to buy Bitcoin. That's a big danger. And I wouldn't do this, because at any time I want, I can easily pay off my loan. You see, it's a loan that I didn't really need. but I took it because I didn't have to spend my Bitcoin. It would take 2.5 Bitcoin to buy that truck. Okay, for the price that I paid, it would take less than it would take about a half a Bitcoin to buy the truck now.
And that's a big thing. There's one thing you said in there. I didn't need the. I would not need the loan. Like that's the thing. I see people are getting trapped that take a loan that they need. So, for example, I don't know, like if you buy a car, maybe you need a car, and you could afford right now to pay the, I don't know, 30, 40 grand for the car, but you choose to do it with a loan because it's just like, I don't know, 1%, 2% interest rate. And it's a heck of a good deal because you can put that money that you don't put in the car right now into Bitcoin. And you just like have the car anyways, and you finance it over a few years. That's a good decision because you could have bought it anyways. It wouldn't have made a huge dent in your portfolio. But if you have nothing to your name and you buy like a 50 grand car, and all of a sudden you're like indebted over your assets, like your your liabilities are higher than your assets, like that's probably not a good idea, especially with a car that loses very quickly in value in the first like 5 years. So yeah, like there's a lot of nuance to that whole thing, but that brings a lot of evil to the world. But if you use it correctly, you can benefit a lot. Like as Robert Kiyosaki said, if I owe the bank $1 billion, it's the problem of the bank, not mine.
And that's a very true statement. And this is the too big to fail. They'll always work it out with you. And this is where the big guys play. I don't want the stress. I don't care about money that much. I care about my life and how I can live it. And it's funny. The proof in that is I've had a great deal of older guys my age or older that make a hell of a lot of money, like a ton, like 60, 100 million a year. And they can't quit and they don't have freedom and they complain and bitch. And I go, what are you bitching about? I mean, who runs this company? They go, who owns it? Well, I do. There's no, I mean, the stocks, I mean, I own the whole thing. Really? Doesn't sound like it. Sounds like it owns you because they can't get days off. They own everything, yachts and fancy houses and all these, ski lodges and all this incredible properties and stuff to enjoy. They never get to use it. What's the point? Just to stack up a bunch of stuff to say you got it? Well, that wasn't the intention, but that's where it ends up. And it's just like, I'm not going to bust my ass just so I can have a bunch of stuff to take care of. And that's what happens. I was raised with the idea that things, stuff, cars, toys, all that, they're trappings. That's what they called them when I was growing up. My father, those are trappings. Why? Because they trap you. You buy this stuff, you end up with jet skis, and you got a boat, and you've got a car, and you've got a buggy, and you've got a motorcycle. And now you get an airplane and all that. I know guys with 8 airplanes. You got to maintain this stuff. You can't just let it sit there. You got to use it or do maintenance and things. And so you become trapped by it, having so many properties. I mean, the beauty of Bitcoin is people used to say, well, I need this property. I need this real estate. I do it to park money. I do it to, beat the game. I get it. That was the only tools we had. Gold was one of the tools to put your money into, but it really didn't go anywhere. And what pissed me off with gold, and this is why I got out of it, I had gold certificates in an IRA when I found out about Bitcoin. And I found that I could flip it to Bitcoin. And gold didn't go anywhere in 2008, 2009 during a financial crisis. That's when gold should have shot up, but it really didn't. And, gold's not doing it. I'm going to destroy it into Bitcoin. My brother, you're crazy. I'm like, well, I'll take half of it. So I took half of it and put it into Bitcoin, and then I did the other half later. And Peter Schiff has said, nobody would sell gold for Bitcoin. That's exactly what I did. I not only sold gold, I sold what was worse than that, gold certificates, third-party illusionary money. Those certificates did not represent real gold because there's way more certificates out there than there is real gold. So I got out before everybody else. Now, I know guys, during this run-up with the gold, the metals, and the silver, I have billionaire friends that are getting a hold of me. And one guy's like, do you know anybody that wants to buy gold or silver? And I go, like, what are we talking? He goes, at least $1 million. Like, I don't want to make any sales less than $1 million for either of these. I go, I got 20 million of each. Oh, okay. So try to find that. And I said, would you take Bitcoin? Oh, yeah. Like I should have listened to you a long time ago. And I'm like, oh, really? He goes, yeah, this is the problem. He now has got this gain. It's not doubled, but it's gone up a great deal. He's trying to sell gold at a profit and silver. Nobody wants to take it. for the market price. And then he realizes, well, I've got the actual stuff. These aren't certificates. He actually has the gold and silver. Well, he did listen to me somewhat because of the security, but he's done a very good job. It's with him. I know where he's at. I know what he's talking about, but it's not an easy way to get the gold or the silver from where he's at on an island into a city or into a country where he needs to sell it. And he basically, we talked, and he said, I'm going to have to fucking get a charter helicopter to take me to a charter jet to fly to Dubai to do this. Nobody else is. I said, probably Dubai. He goes, that's what everybody says. Like, that's the only choice. And he goes, I don't even know they'll take it there. And so, well, they'll take it. They just not. He goes, I know they're not going to give me the price that I'm here. It's not liquid. In other words, this is the problem with the third party. It's you still got to get your money out, just like with casino coins. Everybody's making all this money. Okay, sell it. Well, wait a minute. The exchanges are closed, or they're not letting me. I can't make a sale. I'm not getting the price. Yeah, that's the problem. You don't have that issue with Bitcoin. And so this is where, this guy, he's got tons of gold, tons of silver. He does have some Bitcoin, but now he wants to convert all the metals into Bitcoin. Why? Because it's unconfiscatable. It has a better CAGR. And more than anything, he can liquidate 247. On a Sunday afternoon, he can sell $1 million worth of Bitcoin. There's nowhere else.
It's like it's none of the other things. Like it's so crazy to me because if you think about the benefits and the disadvantages, like it's just like it's very very hard to overlook Bitcoin if you really look into it.
Yeah, and that's where he was kind of going down the road. He knew what I was doing. Back when I first did it, I would not say, "Hey, this is a sure thing," like that. Sure. After 2018, and I learned more about it. And I talked to devs, and we got through the Bitcoin wars, the fork wars, and went on with things. I then really understood it much better. And I started telling people by 2019, this investor types, don't wait. You really should get your hands on some of this. Not huge amounts, but get started. Some did, some didn't. And others realized their problems were coming, and they thought, well, metals is the way to go. They're traditional, they're gold bugs. That's what and that's what this guy did. He really doubled down on it. Good choice. Made a lot of gains, but he hasn't been able to collect it. And he has got some, and he's doing it, but he's like, man, if this were Bitcoin, I'd just be done. I go, yeah, if you had 20 million in Bitcoin, and 40 million is what he's saying, basically. I mean, dude, why would you keep working?
And this is the loop that we made to earlier, like we started the thing with retirement in the early podcast, and it's like, yeah, like it matters a lot to what vehicle you're saving in, you're choosing for your retirement, and like when you retire, how you retire, and all of those things. And with Bitcoin, you're not only getting the number go up, like getting more money, but you're actually getting the freedom, which is I think the more important point, because you can do whatever you want with that money. So it's closing a good loop. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and well, it's something I do believe that while retirement, when I talk about retirement, people are like, oh, you don't have to. No, I don't have to do anything. I work physically harder than I have in years. I'm out driving tractor and digging holes and planting plants and doing all because I want to, not because I have to. And I do it on my schedule. That's freedom. Okay. But I've said for a long time, I retired when I was 30. What are you talking about? You had more business. Yeah, but I didn't have to do it. That's what I consider to be retirement. Retirement is not I don't work anymore. Retirement is I work when I want to and how I want to, for what I want to. There's no controls on me. There's nothing saying I have to show up or I have to do this. But at the same time, while I have all this time and freedom, no, I do not have unlimited funds. I have friends with a lot more money than I, but they have lost a lot of their time. And this is where, a guy making $60 million a year is telling me I have no time. And I says, but whose fault is that? Time is something you create. It's something I argue with.
We literally said that also on the previous episodes, like time is the real wealth. Like money is just like, because you might appreciate that. Like when I look at my Bitcoin position, I don't look at from like euros or dollars. I look at it like how many months can I live off that stack? Like what is the amount of Bitcoin I need per month currently, and how many months could I get if the Bitcoin just stays flat forever. And that's how I look at wealth. It's like, how many months could I just sit? I mean, I would not do that, but how many months could I just sit on the couch and watch TV? Like, how many months could I sit there?
That to me is what we're talking about, retirement. I have a retirement calculator for Bitcoin, and it literally allows me to put in any CAGR, any inflation number, what I'm starting with, how much I'm going to add to it or not add to it. I started out with, I have this much Bitcoin and I'm not adding anything. I'm just going to draw money out. How long can I draw money out? How long can I burn off that Bitcoin? Well, you start out, when I started out, it took, for a year, it could be 10 Bitcoin. Now I can live on half a Bitcoin, a quarter of a Bitcoin now. I don't need it. And what's funny is, as I continue with the ranch, my life gets cheaper to live. At the same time, my money's going up. Now I do spend it, but I'm spending it on things like investing in tools and equipment to keep doing and investing more in plants to get things growing. And this is the beauty is I talk about stacking sats is the same as stacking seeds. You see, getting plants growing and having more seed and getting more land races and more plants out here is a bank too. And creating good living soil is really the bank. That's where everything, that's where the investment is in permaculture, is you want to create living soil. And as you create more and more of it and a food forest, a way that the nature will continue to make outputs. What starts out in permaculture is you put in a lot of inputs, you get very little output. But as the outputs grow, the inputs decrease. So you're putting less and less fertilizer, water, work, everything into it, and you get more and more. That's what permaculture is about. It's a permanent culture. It's investing in something that eventually you've like jump-started nature. Now nature will carry it on whether you continue or not. And that's the way we should be farming and ranching, because it's a natural way. That's why nature supports it. But what we do is we fight with nature. We try to control nature. We try to tell them, nature doesn't matter. We're man. We can do what we want. But man gets humbled by weather all the time. And when you look at cities that are poorly designed, like Las Vegas, it just had the big Bitcoin conference there, and you got all this. When it rains in Vegas, and I know it well, my corporation was there for many years. I go in and out of Vegas, don't like it much, but when it rains there, they have underground parking in these hotels. There's flood like you wouldn't believe. They built in the lowest part of the debt. It's like, Jesus. And then you cement everything in, there's no runoff. The runoff all goes, and you see these huge flood problems and all these issues. You're like, and this was all designed by man, not taking into account nature. You see, and if you worked with nature, you could still put Vegas there. You would have designed it differently, and you would make sure there was runoff and there were places to absorb that water. But that's not that's coming. You see, and this is all these fiat games, all this got to make money, do it at any cost, make a profit. It causes people to be incentivized to do the wrong thing. They don't think long term; they think very short term, and they think about making money now, not in 10 or 15 years. When I grew up, a investment was considered, long investment was 20 years. You say that to a young person, like 20 years. Yeah, I mean, you're only 20 years old. That means you're 40. I mean, you're not retiring at 40, are you? I mean, I jokingly say I retired at 30, but I didn't quit working. I never will quit working.
It's such an interesting question, because like, what does even retirement mean? Because I cannot imagine just sitting somewhere, like, I don't know, doing nothing. Like I want to do something, like I want to contribute something, and I'm like, okay, what would I do? And I'm like, I think I would do about that what I'm currently doing. Maybe I would do it a little bit different. Maybe I do it a little bit less, like a little bit more relaxed. I don't know, but like honestly, like I would do about the same. And that is, I think, the better definition of retirement. Retirement is not sitting on your ass and not doing anything. Retirement is only doing what you really like to do, and follow kind of your things that you can do. Man, it's yeah.
Where you can do something with a passion, and you can do it because you have a passion for it, not because you have a drive to just make money or just turn a profit. And it changes. You see, I want to grow really good quality food, not because it makes me money, because I want quality food. And so this is why I say you go to small ranchers and farmers, generally they're motivated not by huge amounts of money. Now, I know plenty of ranchers and farms that are 5 to 20 acres that can produce a quarter to $1 million, quarter a million, 250,000 to $1 million a year. That's not bad money. You can take 2 acres. Joe Salatin just talked about, you can have 2 acres of chickens, and he says you should be able to make $250,000 a year off of that. 2 acres. And people are like, what? And he goes, well, it's commercially done, but it's done properly. With chicken tractors, which move along and they regenerate the land as they do it. He literally does this. and he says, this is how many birds we have per acre. This is how many you could have. He goes, I have much more than that. He's making more money than that. But the point is, it's healthy chicken, which is very rare in America. Chicken is, it's so chemicalized, and they've done so much to chicken and eggs. It's just absurd, and so unnecessary, other than the fact that it's a fiat incentive. And, if everybody could raise chickens, not everybody has to. But like in the capital of La Paz, we have chickens. Every city in Mexico has chickens. You hear them, and people get upset, and they go, God, between the chickens, the dogs. And I go, oh, yeah, didn't you hear the goats? You have those too. And we've got, cows in the city, in the capital. There's no laws against that. And there are certain things you can't do. But I mean, to have some animals, to raise chickens, have fresh eggs, it's not a crisis in Mexico. Our price of eggs did not go flying up during COVID like they did in America. But what's worse is the store-bought egg in America isn't even worth eating. My point is, you people not only have gotten to where it's convenient, but it's convenient to eat garbage. And Joe Salatin said, this is what they need to do. And I just posted this video on my X page yesterday. There's a video of Joe Salatin who's trying to get the government to create an emancipation for the farmer. What he means by that is to free the farmers of all these controls. They can't grow small farms and ranches, and then they can't, they've been told, well, you can't raise that fruits and vegetables and like pickle those cucumbers and sell them. That's illegal. Well, how do I legally do it? You can't. We're not going to give you a permit. You're like, well, but these are farmers. I mean, what am I supposed to do with my product? I mean, I bought a farm, I'm raising it, I want to be able to sell, but you have to do this, you have to do that. And they're going, but I can't afford to do that, or that's not what we're doing. This is the thing, is that they're making it impossible for small ranchers and farmers to exist in this part of the world. Whereas here in Mexico, we still have millions of small ranchers and farms. So this is why I know the supply chain is actually safer in Mexico than it is in America. And in many cases, it's the same in Europe. In certain parts of Europe, they have plenty of animals around. They produce a lot of their own food. But in America, they're not only got all these distribution centers, but the young people, they're actually generations away from farms and ranches. Every Mexican I know, I can say, do you know anybody with a ranch? Oh, yeah, my brother, my cousin, my father. Somebody has a ranch or a farm in their family. Americans can't say that. And most of them, when they do say it, they're talking about an industrial farm where there's one guy or four guys running, huge, giant tractors, remote control, GPS, automatic sprayers, all this stuff, for 10,000 acres. That's not farming and ranching, in my view, you see. And this is...
It's something completely else, yeah.
Yeah, so it's very interesting that while the industrial systems are failing, they should fail. They shouldn't exist. This is why they're failing. They're fiat incentivized to make a bunch of money. They're not... Nobody in the food industry... I've got a brother-in-law that works in strawberries big time, very high up. And strawberries, 85%, 90% of the market is owned by very few companies. Same thing. It's another cartel. And they'll tell you what they need that strawberry to come in early season, late season. It has to store well, look good, goes for 10 different things. Nutrition is not one of them. You mean you're not growing food?
It is great, but I love the culture of like growing food yourself. Like if you do that, like you're more self-sufficient. But I would freaking love to talk to you like forever. You have like a fountain of knowledge, so I'll definitely just like have to re-invite you. I unfortunately have more of a schedule. I'm in my 20s. I probably have more of a schedule than you were having 20, 30 years ago. So thank you so much already for spending your time with me and giving us so much knowledge. Before we end, we have an end routine, as you might know from the previous episode that we did, where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asked you the question, if you had to, it's a really fun one, if you had to send all your Bitcoin to someone in the world, to whom would you send it and why?
Wow. If I had to send my Bitcoin to somebody, well, I'm tempted to burn it. I'm terrible at that. I'm like Sailor. I've had a lot of Bitcoin G's get mad at me, like, you're not going to donate it to something. I'm like, yeah, what can I trust? I've worked with a lot of charities. I worked with a lot of nonprofits. There's so many of them are so bad that you hate to, just leave it for somebody. Friends and family, they've got money and they've never invested in this. I have one nephew that might end up with some because he actually got into Bitcoin on his own. He's got into some other things. He's starting to learn that the casino coins aren't worth it. So probably him, but and it would come because I also know out of all the relatives I have, he would do the right thing. He's not a greedy person. He would actually get it out and do some good things with it. So that's probably where I'd go because he is family. But he has no idea that could happen, but it could. But my brothers, sisters, and the rest of them, they don't deserve any of that. I want to reward the people that have woke up. I want to help people wake up. I don't want to encourage the game. And this is where my own family, when they inherited money, it just made them where they never. I have a sister that really never had to work, and she'll claim she's an artist and done all this, but it's just it's sad that but yeah, I don't know what ever make me to have to give it away, other than the fact that time's up on my side. And I've had this conversation. I've got Bitcoiners who said, if you want, they run companies that do this with, and I do run a multi-sig system that it's not so easy to get my coin. I even have some time locked, partly for myself, but partly to do it. So this is where people come to me. I'm like, yeah, I know you hear me talk about Bitcoin all the time, but I'm not an idiot. I don't have it out here at the ranch. I have a certain amount that whenever I have to order it in. Yeah, I have to bring it to me, and I need authorization. I set that up on purpose, so that if anybody came here with a gun, it's like, well, they're not going to be convinced. They're not going to send it, so you're not getting it that way. You can off me. That's all you're going to get is a dead person. But it's a tough one. But yeah, I'm not.
I love that, by the way. Like I love that Bitcoin gives you all the power back, because an intruder just has no clue how you actually store your Bitcoin. If you're not, like, even if you say it publicly how you store your Bitcoin, that doesn't need to be the actual case how you store your Bitcoin. And so, like, you never know how, like, the worst thing that can happen to you is also the worst thing that can happen to the intruder. If he comes to you and he wants some Bitcoin, he can kick it out of you, he can kill you. But in the end of the day, he only has a murder on his case. That's the worst case for him, because he got no reward for a really bad thing that he currently did. And so, like, Bitcoin is I think the asset that protects you from all those crimes the most. Like, think about you being a gold bug and talking about gold, like, and then, like, you have all the gold at home. Like, the certificates are horrible because you have no control over it. And then, like, if you have it all at home, like, yeah, someone can just literally come to you and just like, yeah, give me your gold. No, okay, bam, I just take it anyways.
The best thing for security is nobody knows what you have. That's the greatest thing. Whether it's gold, silver, Bitcoin, people don't know. They don't know, and that's the best security. I've been vocal about what I'm doing, but that's because I want to share what I've learned, and I don't have those fears. I don't have family, friends. I don't have, and I'm at the latter part of my life. There's not much you can do to me. I've lived in pain a great deal, so I just kind of laugh. Like, you come to me, it's like you're going to find out I'm pretty tough, but I don't have anybody you can threaten. There's nobody you're going to say, I'm going to do that. Go ahead. Not my problem. Like, you're kidding. I was like, well, you don't get me. I mean, you don't know. I've cut ties with lots and lots of friends and family over a lot of this stuff. And it's not that I hate them. It's quite the opposite. I just don't want to drive them crazy because I can't change who I am. I have gone down the rabbit hole. I've seen what I've seen. I can't unsee it. And I'm done playing games and acting like everything's okay. It's not. Your countries are literally, whether it's evil or whether it's just by the incentives being bad, they're poisoning their own populations. And especially in America, it's absolutely absurd. And is it all in the name of money or what? I don't know, but I just know it's not right. So what I consider all the time is what to look at for the future and not be hung up on the past. I don't care how we got here as much as what are the changes we can make now that we have Bitcoin, now that we have decentralized money, decentralized networks like Nostr. What can we create and what can we do to where we can actually, benefit with those things and create a world that's never been. And I believe that's what can happen and will happen.
Awesome. Then, yeah, thank you so much for that, and really cool insights that you got there, Jimmy. Before I let you go, where can people find you and ask you questions?
I'm known as Crypto Zorro. It's spelled Spanish wise, CRIPTOZORRO at X. And I'm available mostly on X and also on ranchosansatoshi.com. I do get emails from that. The site is not kept up on a regular basis. We will probably do an update this year as I get more into it. But
Awesome.
PM me on X, and I do a space every Sunday from 8 in the morning till 12, 4 hours. We run every Sunday. I've been doing it for like 5-6 years now. In a way, I would probably stopped a while ago, but people love it. So, and I network with people. That's really what I'm about. It's not about me. If you got a question about how to do something, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to give you somebody that knows better than I. It's not like I have all the answers, but I definitely know an awful lot of people that do.
That's the best place to have. Thank you so much, Jimmy, for being on the podcast, and also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.